Okay, hello everyone. So today or this week we're going to be talking about limb 4 of yoga, pranayama, which is the breath work of yoga. So the fourth limb of yoga is pranayama. It literally means control, yama. So we learned about the yamas and how the yamas are the restraints of the life force or breath, which is prana. And breath and prana are a little different in that when we speak of prana, we're speaking of the life force that comes with the breath versus simply just the air that we breathe. So, prana is important in order to sustain life and its energy. This limb is seen as one of the bridge parts, one side of the bridge between the outer limbs of yoga and the inner limbs of yoga. So the outer limbs of yoga, the yamas, the niyamas, pranayama, and asana. And on the other side are our inner or contemplative limbs of yoga, which we'll start learning about next week. So if you imagine the outer limbs over here and the inner limbs over here, and there's a bridge connecting the two. And one side of that bridge is pranayama, and the other side is pratyahara, which we will talk about next week. So just like there are many different postures in yoga and different exercises that we do physically with our body, there are many different breathing exercises that we can also practice for various reasons and to achieve various goals. So we practice the postures to improve balance, flexibility, and strength to prepare our body for the contemplative limbs. The breathing exercises improve our lung elasticity, our lung capacity, and it helps us move into the contemplative limbs, the inner limbs of yoga, as well as serving as a drishti. Certain breathing practices will help us focus and stay grounded in the present moment. Like I said, breath can act as a drishti or focal point of concentration for the inner limbs. And your first experiences with pranayama can be very uncomfortable, but don't get discouraged. So just like you're not going to um, do tree pose the first time without perhaps losing your balance, your breathing exercises will also take some practice. All right. So, I forgot to do a slide. What is yoga? We've already talked about yoga means union, and we've been learning that it's an 8-limb path as set forth by the ancient sage Patanjali. The first 4 limbs, and I'm sorry, I'm backtracking, are the outer limbs, which we've been going over. So this is the last of the outer limbs of yoga that we're learning today. And then we have the inner limbs, the contemplative limbs that we will be getting into next week. So sorry about having to go back, but this is a little hard to maneuver while I'm using Screencastify. Okay, so there are 3 key Sanskrit terms that we relate to pranayama. The paraka, which is your inhale, the rachaka, which is your exhale, and the kumbhaka, which we refer to as breath retention. And that is, for lack of a better way of saying it, holding the breath in a relaxed state. So when we're practicing breath retention, it's a state where we should not feel uncomfortable or panicked or anxious. So if breath retention causes those feelings to arise, it's okay not to practice it. And there are 2 types of kumbhaka, antara kumbhaka, and that's when you retain the breath at the top of an inhale, and baya kumbhaka at the bottom of the exhale. And I may be pronouncing these incorrectly, but remember, if someone pronounces something incorrectly, it's because they learned it through reading. All right. So if we look at this diagram that I created, at the bottom, your lungs are empty, the bottom of the exhale. And then you inhale, your paraka, and your lungs are full. And you may retain the breath at the top of the inhale. And then you're going to exhale, Rachaka, and then perhaps retain at the bottom of the exhale. So I like to think of an inhale and an exhale breath cycle as climbing a mountain. And sometimes I will use that as a drishti in my meditation practice. And imagine that I'm looking at a mountain from the distance. And as I inhale, I'm climbing up the mountain to the top. And as I exhale, I'm going down the other side and then reverse. So, nice little visual in case you need one. All right, so when practicing, oh, I just said this, blah, blah. Okay, so it may imagine, it may be helpful, excuse me, I'm just babbling over words today, to imagine that you're looking at a mountain at a distance. You can imagine your body as a mountain. That's one of my favorite types of meditation, is to lie in Shavasana and imagine the breath moving up one arm all the way to the top of the head and then down the opposing arm and then reverse it that way. So that to me is very relaxing and calm and can help you focus and concentrate. All right, so the basics of pranayama. We started out this semester with the 3-part breath. So with yoga breath, you want to breathe through the nose normally, unless there is a condition or obstruction that interferes or prevents you from doing so. So, for instance, you're congested, or you have a deviated septum, or some other disorder or condition that keeps you from being able to breathe in through your nose. So, I would not recommend just not practicing if you have a cold. It can sometimes help detox the body and get some air moving. Use your mouth if you have to. It's helpful to find a rhythm with your inhales and exhales. Ratios can be 1-to-1. So maybe a 4-count inhale and a 4-count exhale. You might have a 1-to-4 ratio, a 4-count inhale and an 8-count exhale. Actually, that should be a 1-to-2 ratio, I would say. You could do a 1-to-4 ratio, but a lot of times the exhale is longer. So you might have a 4-count inhale and an 8-count exhale. Or you could have even an 8-count inhale and a 16-count exhale. So as you advance in your practice, I'm sorry, these ratios are not right. I need to fix that. So as you advance in your practice, you're going to notice that both your inhales and exhales will lengthen. And this is the part of the control aspect of the practice. I have gotten to where sometimes I can take 2 breaths a minute. If I'm really relaxed and feeling not congested and calm, I can discover that sometimes I can take very few breaths per minute. But that's not necessarily the object at this time. It's just getting a rhythm going with your breath. And you're going to focus on the 3 parts of the abdomen. And we've talked about this, expanding the belly, then the lungs and ribs, and then the chest and collarbones. And then reverse your focus and contract the chest, collarbones, contract the ribs and lungs, and finally contract the belly. So that is your 3-part breath. And here it is again. Here's some benefits of the 3-part breath. It engages the parasympathetic nervous system. It brings you out of fight or flight, freeze or fawn. It can relieve anxiety. It helps you become aware of where tension may be housed in your body. You may not even be aware of that until you begin to notice in your calm, relaxed state. It can help you identify your emotional state, become aware of progression of thoughts, and it can help increase your peaceful nature and calm you down, because less distraction is going to mean less stress and more focused and fulfilling life. So the Durga breath can be very helpful. Brahmari breath is the bee breath. And the bee breath includes soothing vibrations, and the humming stimulates your inner organs. It elevates the spirit, it relieves anxiety, and it calms the nervous system. That should say calms. You only hear your own humming. So if your eyes are closed, you're less self conscious. So you close your ears by placing your fingers on this little piece of cartilage and closing them off. Um, After several rounds of the breath, you will feel the parasympathetic nervous system engage. Nadi Shodhana or Anuloma Viloma are both alternate nostril breaths. They're a little different in that Anuloma Viloma includes breath retention while Nadi Shodhana does not. This breath balances the left and right hemispheres of the brain. It energizes your mind. It brings equilibrium to your thoughts and it balances your emotions. It helps you focus and you can become responsive rather than reactive. And we always want to be more responsive than reactive. It's a great exercise to do before you have a test, a presentation, a job interview, graduate school interview, or any type of assignment that requires concentration. Great practice. Okay, so Nadi Shodhana is alternate nostril breathing without the breath retention. It incorporates chin mudra. So with your left hand, I don't know if I'm your mirror image, I don't think so. You're going to place your thumb and pointer finger together, and the other three fingers go out to the side. Vishnu mudra is your right hand. You take your little finger and lay it atop your ring finger, and then this is kind of difficult to do. Pull these two fingers down. So it's a little uncomfortable. You close off your right nostril with your thumb and then your left nostril with your ring finger. You always begin with the left nostril and end on the left nostril. If that's too difficult, the Vishnu Mudra, then just use an L and use your pointer finger and your thumb. Even though we're practicing Nadi Shodhana, you want to remember we still use the basics of the Durga breath when you are practicing it. All right, here's Vishnu Mudra. It's a nice visual. This person's hand is much more relaxed than mine. So use the L shape if this is not comfortable. This is Chin Mudra. The left hand is in Chin or Gana Mudra. And it rests on the top of the left leg. Let me fix that mistake. Well, maybe I can't. Anyway, I'll fix it later. Uh-oh. Let's see. I'm not going to worry about it. So that's Chin Mudra. And then Anuloma Viloma is alternate nostril breathing with breath retention. So it's practiced at a ratio of 1-8-4. So a 4-count inhale, a 16-count breath retention at the top of the inhale, and then a 8-count exhale. You could even do an 8-count inhale. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what it was. This is essentially this. So a 4-count inhale, a 16-count breath retention, an 8-count exhale. And then everything else remains the same as Nadi Shodhana. Okay, let's pull this one up. Having a little bit of trouble here. Maybe that was the last one. No, there's still more. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just confused. I keep drawing on the slides. Bat, maybe? Mouse. There we go. Okay. Sorry. All right, so breath of joy. This practice may not be appropriate for everyone. Skip it if you have high blood pressure or if you suffer from a head injury or eye injury, migraines or glaucoma. If you feel lightheaded, instead of lighthearted, stop and just breathe normally. It's a great exercise to engage the sympathetic nervous system. So if you're lethargic or lacking energy, you can use this to wake up. And after your sympathetic nervous system engages, your parasympathetic nervous system is going to kick in, and it'll bring you into a calmer but more focused state. So that is breath of joy. Is that it? Okay. So yeah, these are some of the common practices of pranayama. It's not all of them, but many of them. So if you have